Shavua Tov. How's everybody doing? Great to be learning with you on a Saturday night. Excuse me. Let's light up the darkness. Okay, who's in the house? Over there on the YouTube side, Frank in San Pedro, Aoife in Florida. I feel like this has never happened before. Nobody has commented yet on the Facebook side, but I'm sure people will be tuning in soon. Or maybe the Facebook algorithm changed and is hiding us. There we go. Karen in Northern California. Welcome. Okay, very exciting. Tonight our page is 90, page Tzadi, here in Tractate Sanhedrin, the 24th volume of the Talmud. And with this page, we will conclude, with God's help, chapter 10 in Tractate Sanhedrin and open chapter 11, one of the most famous and important chapters in the entire Talmud. Welcome also Bella in Florida. Okay, right, just two words on page 89. Rav Chisda says, and page 90a. The dispute with regard to a prophet who prophesies to abolish the essence of the prohibition of idol worship, or a prophet who espouses fulfillment of part of the prohibition and nullification of part of the prohibition of idol worship, asserting that idol worship is permitted in certain circumstances. What is going to be his fate? As the merciful one says, and that prophet shall be put to death, because he has spoken perversion against the Lord to divert you from the way on which the Lord your God commanded you to walk. Deuteronomy 13:6. So it may be inferred from this verse, if he diverts you even from part of the way. In these cases, Rabbi Shimon holds that he is executed by strangulation, and the rabbis hold that he is executed by stoning. But at any rate, a prophet who, espouses any kind of idolatry or limits in some way the prohibitions in the Torah against idolatry, we don't listen to him. He's a false prophet. And because he's somehow easing the restrictions on idolatry, death penalty offense for him. But if a prophet abolishes the essence of the rest of the mitzvahs, in other words, commandments not relating to idolatry, everyone agrees that he is executed by strangulation. And if the prophet espouses fulfillment of part and nullification of part of other mitzvahs, right? In other words, he's saying, I've come to change certain laws, right? Not you should stop doing all mitzvahs. But a prophet says there are certain mitzvahs that we're not going to do, not relating to idolatry, other kinds of mitzvahs. For some reason, a prophet came and said, we are going to eat milk and meat together, something like that. Is that a death penalty offense? No. Everyone agrees that he is exempt from punishment. If a true prophet espouses temporary nullification of a specific mitzvah, we listen to him. We must heed his words. Rav Hamnuna raises an objection from a Baraisa that interprets the phrase in the verse to divert you from the way in which the Lord your God commanded you to walk. So to walk, this is a reference to a positive mitzvah, that thou shalt do such and such, on which this is a reference to a prohibition, right? The negative mitzvah is the one to say thou shalt not do such and such. And if it enters your mind that the verse is stated with regard to idolatry, how can you find a positive mitzvah relating to idolatry? The Gemara answers that Rav Chisda interpreted that the positive mitzvah referred to in such a verse is, and you shall smash their altars and break their pillars and burn their asherim in fire. And you shall hew down the graven images of their gods, and you shall destroy their name from that place. When the children of Israel entered the Holy Land, and they needed to wipe out the vestiges of idolatry that had been practiced in the land before they came. A prophet is liable to receive the death penalty if he abolishes this mitzvah, because if he tries to abolish any mitzvah connected to idolatry, it is definitely a death penalty offense. But interestingly, if a prophet says, on a temporary basis, we're going to stop doing a certain mitzvah, or we're going to stop heeding a certain prohibition, we listen to him. That actually is the purview of a prophet if it's already been established that he is a genuine prophet. But if even a genuine prophet comes and tells you that for a temporary, on a temporary basis, we're going to do some form of idolatry, then he's a false prophet and it's a death penalty offense. Although his objection was resolved, Rav Hamnuna suggests an alternative explanation of the dispute. And he says, the dispute is with regard to a prophet who prophesies to abolish the essence of a mitzvah, whether it is with regard to idol worship or with regard to the rest of the mitzvahs, or a prophet who espouses fulfillment of part of a prohibition and nullification of part of a prohibition of idol worship. This is, as the Merciful One says. So now he interprets this verse, phrase by phrase, from the way, from which it may infer if he diverts you from even part of the way. In these cases, Rabbi Shimon holds that he is executed by strangulation, and the rabbis hold that he is executed by stoning. But if the prophet espouses fulfillment of part and nullification of part among the other mitzvahs, everyone agrees that he is exempt from punishment, as that is within the mandate of a prophet. And the sages taught, in the case of one who prophesies to abolish a matter from the Torah, he is deemed a false prophet and is liable to be executed by strangulation. If he prophesies to fulfill part or to nullify part of a matter in the Torah, Rabbi Shimon deems him exempt from execution. And with regard to idol worship, even if he says worship it today and tomorrow nullify it, everyone agrees that he is liable to the death penalty. And the Gemara comments, Abaye holds in accordance with the opinion of Rav Chisda and explains the Baraisa in accordance with the opinion of Rav Chisda. Rava holds in accordance with the opinion of Rav Hamnuna and explains the Baraisa in accordance with the opinion of Rav Hamnuna. And the Gemara explains, Abaye holds in accordance with the opinion of Rav Chisda, and he explains the Baraisa in accordance with the opinion of Rav Chisda. In the case of one who prophesies to abolish a matter from the Torah, everyone agrees that he's executed by strangulation. If he prophesies to fulfill part or only part of a Torah law, Rabbi Shimon deems him exempt from execution, and the same is true of the rabbis who also hold that he is exempt. And with regard to idol worship, even if he says worship it today and nullify it tomorrow, everyone agrees that he is liable to be executed. What form of death penalty is imposed? One sage, meaning the rabbis, rules in accordance with what he holds, i.e. stoning, and the other sage, Rabbi Shimon, rules in accordance with what he holds, i.e. strangulation. Rava comes from a different perspective. He holds in accordance with the opinion of Rav Hamnuna, and he explains the Baraisa in accordance with the opinion of Rav Hamnuna. In the case of one who prophesies to abolish a matter from the Torah, whether it is with regard to idol worship or with regard to the rest of the mitzvahs, he is liable to be executed. What form of death penalty is imposed? One sage rules in accordance with what he holds, i.e. stoning, and the other sage, Rabbi Shimon, rules in accordance with what he holds, strangulation. If he prophesies to fulfill part or nullify part of a Torah law other than idol worship, Rabbi Shimon deems him exempt from execution, and the same is true of the rabbis who also hold him exempt. And with regard to idol worship, even if he says worship it today and nullify tomorrow, everyone agrees that he is liable to be executed. With what form of death penalty? One sage, meaning the rabbis, rules in accordance with what he holds, i.e. stoning, and the other sage, Rabbi Shimon, rules in accordance with what he holds, i.e. strangulation. Rabbi Abahu says that Rabbi Yochanan says, in summary, with regard to all mitzvahs, if a prophet will say to you, violate matters of Torah on a provisional basis, heed him, right? A prophet can come and tell us that on a temporary basis, we're not going to follow certain laws in the Torah. And if he is a genuine prophet, we listen to him. But if, even being a genuine prophet, he says that we're going to practice any form of idol worship, or he suspends any laws relating to idol worship, then he has just deemed himself a false prophet. We don't listen to him, and we execute him as a prophet who is inciting others to idolatry. Right? And this is true. If he says, violate matters of Torah on a provisional basis, heed him, except for idol worship, as even if he establishes that he is a bona fide prophet, and he stops the sun for you in the middle of the sky, do not listen to him if he's talking about idolatry. It is taught in a Baraisa that Rabbi Yosei HaGalili says the Torah ascertained the depth of the mentality of idol worship, the danger that it presents, and the lure of its ideology. Therefore, the Torah ascribed the false prophet with dominion in its regard, recognizing that a false prophet could perform wonders on the basis of idol worship. Therefore, even if the false prophet stops the sun for you in the middle of the sky, do not heed him. It is taught in a baraisa that Rabbi Kiva says, heaven forfend that the Holy One, blessed be he, would stop the sun for those who violate his will. A false prophet could never perform an actual miracle. Rather, this warning is relevant only in the case of a prophet, an actual prophet. For example, Hananiah, son of Azur, whose origin was as a true prophet, at which point he could perform miracles. But ultimately, he became a false prophet. Therefore, although he had already been established as a true prophet, once he espouses idol worship, it is clear that he is a false prophet. The Mishnah teaches, and conspiring witnesses who testified that the daughter of a priest and her paramour committed adultery are executed by strangulation. The Gemara asks, from where are these matters derived? Rav Acha, the son of Rav Ikka, says it is derived as it is taught in Baraisa that Rabbi Yosei says, what is the meaning when the verse states with regard to conspiring witnesses, and you shall do to him as he conspired to do to his brother? Deuteronomy 19:19. So the verse is formulated in this manner due to the fact that in all cases involving those rendered conspiring witnesses who are mentioned in the Torah, for example, forbidden relatives, the sentences of their conspiring witnesses and their paramours are similar to their own sentences, and the witnesses are executed because they conspired and told a lie and tried to have the defendant executed. So the witnesses are themselves executed, these conspiring witnesses, and what form of death penalty? Strangulation. So the Brisa continues, the daughter of a priest is an exception, as she is executed by burning if she commits adultery, and her lover is not executed by burning. With regard to the conspiring witnesses who testified falsely that this daughter of a priest and another man committed adultery, I do not know if the witnesses are likened to the paramour, right, the alleged male adulterer who slept with this daughter of a priest, or if the conspiring witnesses are likened to the daughter of the priest in terms of punishment. So when the verse states with regard to conspiring witnesses, as he conspired to do to his brother, one infers, as he conspired to do to his brother, but not as he conspired to do to his sister. The execution of the conspiring witnesses is likened to the execution of the alleged lover, who is executed by strangulation, and their death penalty is not likened to the execution of the daughter of the priest, who would have been executed by burning if the testimony of the conspiring witnesses had been believed. And that concludes our discussion of chapter 10. Now we open the classic and famous Perek Chelek, chapter 11, here in Tractate Sanhedrin. We're still on page 90a, and we open Mishnah number 1 in chapter 11. All the Jewish people, right? All Kol Yisroel is how it's phrased. Kol Yisroel yesh lachem chelek le'olam haba. All the Jewish people, even sinners and those who are liable to be executed with a court-imposed death penalty, have a share in the world to come. As it is stated, Isaiah 60 verse 21, and your people also shall be righteous. They shall inherit the land forever, the branch of my planting, the work of my hands, for my name to be glorified. So, every Jew has a share in the world to come, but he can lose his share. And these are the exceptions. People who have no share in the world to come, people who lose their share in the world to come. Even when they have fulfilled many mitzvahs, even when they have fulfilled many commandments. How do you lose your share in the world to come? Number one who says there is no resurrection of the dead. Now here it's phrased like this. One who says there is no resurrection of the dead from the Torah. So there's two variants on how this can be found in the Talmud. According to Rambam and most commentators, it would be who loses his share in the world to come? One who denies resurrection of the dead. Rashi and some of the commentators say it's like this: one who denies resurrection of the dead from the Torah. Meaning that we know that there is resurrection of the dead, even though it is not mentioned explicitly in the Torah, nevertheless it is alluded to in the Torah, and one who denies that that is so can lose his place in the world to come. So that's actually a more stringent opinion. Right? So that's not somebody who says there is no resurrection of the dead. He's just saying it's not proven in the Torah. Even that can cause him to lose his share in the world to come. But Rambam, Maimonides, says even if you just deny that there is resurrection of the dead, you lose your place in the world to come. And if you think about it, it's a natural consequence, right? Somebody who says, in other words, that there is no next world where you will survive, right? There are two principles here, and we're going to be talking about this. What does Olam Haba, the world to come, mean? Right? So some say, and I think Rambam says that this means the world of souls, the eternal world of souls. And there's going to be the other when Mashiach comes, when the Messiah comes, right? And there's resurrection of the dead. People come back to life. All the people who ever lived and who have a share in the world to come are actually resurrected into their bodies. And then there will be the Messianic age, and some say it will last, like 1,000 years. There's different opinions about that. And then that will end. And then what? And then again, the world of souls, right? So Olam Haba can refer either to the Messianic age and resurrection of the dead, or the eternal world of souls. We are all eternal souls. We come from the world of souls. We return to the world of souls. And one who denies that that world exists, okay, well, he's not going to have a place in it. Very foolish to deny that. You could say, I'm not sure. It hasn't been proven to me. I'm skeptical. But if you just say it doesn't exist with certainty, yeah, based on what? You don't know. No one knows. Right? The militant atheist, very foolish position. You could say, I don't know. I'm a skeptic, agnostic, something like that. That's maybe being true to your truth sense. But to say that it doesn't exist, that's a matter of faith too. Why make that bet? Very bad bet, according to this Mishnah. Right? So who has no share in the world to come? One who says there is no resurrection of the dead from the Torah, and one who says that the Torah did not originate from heaven. Right? One who says that the Torah is not, from God, is not divine. And an apicorus, that's a heretic, who treats Torah scholars and the Torah that they teach with contempt. These people lose their share in the world to come. Rabbi Akiva says, also included in the exceptions are one who reads external literature. Whoa. I was an English major in college. I read a lot of books that are not scripture. Did I lose my place in the world to come? No. External literature is actually much more specific. In a note here, it even says that Greek literature was not considered external literature for this. What they're talking about here is at the time that the Bible was being canonized, there were books that made it in, and there were books that did not make it in. So basically, these are the people who are, refusing to accept which books are in the Bible and which not, and are treating non-scripture as scripture. And one who whispers invocations over a wound and says, as an invocation for healing, every illness that I placed upon Egypt, I will not place upon you, for I am the Lord your healer. Exodus 15:26. Very odd. It's a verse in the Torah. You can say verses from the Torah whenever you want, and it's righteous, right? But if you're taking a verse from the Torah and you're turning it into a kind of charm used in a semi-idolatrous manner, that would be bad, and it actually shows contempt for the Torah. By doing so, he shows contempt for the sanctity of the name of God, and therefore has no share in the world to come. Abba Shaul says, also included in the exceptions is one who pronounces the ineffable name of God as it is written with its letters. Right? So that's the tetragrammaton that we never pronounce the way that it is written. Big danger. Don't do it. 3 prominent kings mentioned in the Bible and 4 prominent commoners who are described in the Bible as men of great wisdom have no share in the world to come. Now, it's not to say that these are the only people who ever lost their share of the world to come, but they're mentioned because they are prominent, and despite their accomplishments and prominence, they lost their share in the world to come. And who are they? The 3 kings are Yerovam, the son of Nebat, and Ahab, right? Ahab, King Ahab, both of whom were kings of Israel, and Menashe, a king of Judea. Rabbi Yehuda says Menashe has a share in the world to come, as it is stated concerning Menashe, quote, and he prayed to him, and he received his entreaty, and heard his supplication, and brought him back to Jerusalem unto his kingdom. 2 Chronicles 33:13. Menashe had a very long reign as king, I think 55 years, and I believe 22 years he was an absolute idolatrous sinner, and 33 years he was repentant. Problem for him was, while he was an idolater, he wasn't just personally idolatrous, but he was forcing the nation of Israel to be idolatrous. And that inciting others and commanding them, forcing them to commit idolatry is such a big sin that it could not be overcome, according to some, or according to the majority. The rabbis said to Rabbi Yehuda, who said Menashe did finally earn a place in the world to come, the rabbis said to Rabbi Yehuda, he regretted his actions, and his repentance was effective to the extent that God restored him to his kingdom. But God did not restore to him his share in the world to come. Now, the four commoners, right, non-royalty, are Bilam, right, the prophet that we meet in the Torah, the son of Beor, non-Jewish prophet, Doeg, the Edomite, Ahisophel, and Gehazi. That's the Mishnah. Now, the Gemara. Now, by the way, we'll derive later that, right, this Mishnah said all Israel has a share in the world to come. Okay, so it's speaking about Jews. But it also mentions that people like Bilam have no share in the world to come. So if it only meant that only Jews have a share in the world to come, it would not be necessary to say that someone like Bilam lost his share in the world to come. And from this we see that non-Jews also have a share in the world to come. Judaism is not one of those religions that say either you practice our religion or you have no share in the world to come, in the afterlife. Quite the contrary. Now the Gemara. And why is one punished to the extent that for saying that there is no resurrection of the dead derived from the Torah, he loses his share in the world to come? Why is this? Sounds like a very heavy punishment. Somebody's ignorant, says an ignorant thing, and they lose their share in the world to come. The sages taught in a Baraisa, he denied the resurrection of the dead. Therefore, he will not have a share in the resurrection of the dead. As all measures dispensed by the Holy One, blessed be he, to his people are dispensed measure for measure, i.e. the response is commensurate with the action. Here's a Jew who took it on himself to say, yeah, no. Right? Obviously, I don't believe this, but he is saying, no, there's no resurrection of the dead, and he's saying that with certainty. He denies it with certainty. Okay, so he loses his place in the world to come. Now, this is based on that which Rabbi Shmuel Bar Nachmani says, that Rabbi Yonason says, from where is it derived that all measures dispensed by the Holy One, blessed be he, are dispensed measure for measure? It is derived from a verse, as it is stated concerning the siege of Jerusalem. And Elisha said, hear the word of the Lord. So said the Lord. Tomorrow at this time, 1 seah of fine flour will be sold for 1 shekel, and 2 seah of barley for 1 shekel in the gate of Samaria. 2 Kings 7:1. So what was going on here is that there was an enemy, was it the Assyrians? I'm not sure who it was right now, was besieging Jerusalem. And of course, they couldn't get food in and out of the city. So any food that was available in the city was selling for an exorbitant price. And so now comes the prophet Elisha, and he says, yeah, tomorrow food is going to be like totally cheap. Implying that the siege, some miracle would happen and the siege was suddenly over, right? And so a skeptic doubted him. And it is written, and the officer on whose hand the king leaned answered the man of God and said, will the Lord make windows in heaven? Might this thing be? And then Elisha the prophet said, you shall see it with your eyes, but you shall not eat from there. Your skepticism will cause you to lose out in the celebration of victory over our enemies. Now we're on page 90b. And it is written, and it was for him so. And the prophet and the people trampled him in the gate, and he died. right? In other words, I'm pretty sure this is what that battle where there was a huge army besieging Jerusalem. Everyone was panicked. They didn't know what was going to happen. And then a miracle was wrought that a plague came on the attackers. And I don't know if they all died or they all fled, but it was over. Just miraculous victory over the people that had been besieging the city. And then food became freely available, and the people were, so hungry they ran for the food like a mob. And this one guy who had been the skeptic was trampled by them, and he was the only one who didn't enjoy in the victory. Maybe his skepticism caused that. So the Gemara challenges this cause and effect relationship. Well, perhaps it wasn't mita connected mita. In other words, it wasn't that that he caused his own death by doubting the word of the prophet and denying that this miracle would happen, and that's why heaven killed him. Rather, it was perhaps Elisha was offended that this guy was doubting him, and so it was when Elisha cursed him and said, "You shall not see this." Maybe it was the curse that caused him to be killed. It wasn't a prediction, it was a curse, is what the Gemara is suggesting. Right? The Gemara challenges, perhaps it was the curse of Elisha that caused the officer to die in that manner, not the principle of the punishment measure for his lack of belief. As Rav Yehuda says, that Rav says, the curse of a sage, even if it is baseless, comes to be fulfilled. And this is all the more so true concerning the curse of Elisha, which was warranted. And the Gemara answers, well, if so, the verse could have written, and they trampled him and he died. What does the term "in the gate" serve to teach? It teaches that he died over matters relating to the gate. It was for the cynical dismissal of the prophecy of Elisha that the officer voiced at the city gate that he was punished measure for measure, and he was trampled at the city gate. So this incident is just brought down to suggest that one who denies resurrection of the dead loses his share in the world to come. Simple cause and effect, measure for measure relationship with what he did. New subject. Rabbi Yochanan says, from where is the resurrection of the dead derived from the Torah? The Torah does not say what happens to us in the afterlife. And our sages teach very strongly the Jewish concept of resurrection of the dead at the time of Mashiach and the world of souls and the afterlife, Olam Haba, the world to come, etc. How do they say that so confidently if it's not in the Torah explicitly? It's not explicit, but it is derived from verses in the Torah. Which ones? Rabbi Yochanan says, from where is the resurrection of the dead derived from the Torah? It is derived from this verse, as it is stated with regard to teruma of the tithe. And you shall give the teruma of the Lord to Aaron the priest. Numbers 18:28. When did Aaron live? Moses' brother was there when the children of Israel were brought out of Egypt, when the Lord took us out with a strong hand and an outstretched arm, brought us to Mount Sinai, gave us the Torah, wandered in the desert for many years. Eventually the children entered the land of Israel. When was teruma taken from the tithe? Once the children of Israel entered the land of Israel and began farming the land in Israel. Was Aaron with them? No. Aaron died during the years of wandering in the wilderness. So how can you give teruma to Aaron the priest? And does Aaron exist forever so that one can fulfill the mitzvah by giving him the teruma of the tithe? But is it not so that Aaron did not enter Eretz Yisrael, the only place where the people would give him teruma? Rather, the verse teaches that Aaron is destined to live in the future, and the Jewish people will give him teruma. And from here it is derived that the resurrection of the dead is from the Torah. The school of Rabbi Yishmael taught a different derivation from this verse. From the term "to Aaron," one derives that teruma must be given to a priest like Aaron. Just as Aaron is one devoted to the meticulous observance of mitzvahs, particularly those relating to ritual purity, teruma, and tithes, so too one gives teruma to his descendants who are chaverim, meaning who are meticulous to eat the teruma in a state of ritual purity. Meaning that's a different interpretation of the same verse. So we have not proven that resurrection of the dead is implied by the Torah because there's a different interpretation we could make of that verse. So we're going to try again. Rabbi Shmuel Bar Nachmani says, that Rabbi Yonasan says, from where is it derived? Oh, well, we're not there yet. From where is it derived that one does not give teruma to a priest who is an am haaretz, who is an ignoramus? It is derived from a verse, as it is stated, and he commanded the people who dwelled in Jerusalem to give the portion of the priests and of the Levites so that they may firmly adhere to the Torah of the Lord. 2 Chronicles 31:4. So everyone who firmly adheres to the Torah of the Lord has a portion, and anyone who does not formally adhere to the Torah of the Lord does not have a portion. And Rav Acha Bar Ada says that Rav Yehuda says, with regard to anyone who gives teruma to a priest who is an am haaretz, an ignoramus, it is as though he placed teruma before a lion. Just as with regard to a lion, there is uncertainty whether it will maul its prey and eat it, and uncertainty whether it will not maul its prey and instead eat it alive, so too with regard to a priest who is an am haaretz, to whom one gives teruma, there is uncertainty whether he will eat it in purity, whether he will eat it in a state of purity, and there is uncertainty whether he will eat it in a state of impurity, thereby violating a prohibition of Torah law. In other words, if you have a priest who's an ignoramus and doesn't realize that he can only eat teruma with the teruma being tahor in a state of ritual purity and himself being tahor in a state of ritual purity, you might actually be putting a stumbling block before the blind, because he might end up eating that teruma while he or the teruma or both are impure and committing a big sin. So therefore, don't give your teruma to a priest who's not well-versed in the laws of the Torah. Give it to a priest who is well-versed. And Rabbi Yochanan says, one who gives teruma to a priest who is an am haaretz even causes the priest's death, as it is stated with regard to teruma, quote, and die, therefore, if they profane it. Leviticus 22:9. Priests who partake of teruma in a state of ritual impurity profane it and are liable to be punished with death at the hand of heaven. And the school of Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov taught by giving teruma to a priest who is an am haaretz, one who also brings upon him a sin of guilt, i.e. a sin that will lead to additional sins, as it is stated, and so bring upon them a sin of guilt when they eat their sacred items. Leviticus 22:16. So do the priests and yourself and everyone a favor, only give your teruma when the temple is standing, and we're giving teruma to priests who know the law. New subject. It is taught in a Baraisa that Rabbi Simei says, from where is resurrection of the dead derived from the Torah? It is derived from a verse, as it is stated with regard to the patriarchs. I have also established my covenant with them to give them the land of Canaan. Exodus 6:4. So, the phrase to give you the land of Canaan is not stated, as the meaning of the verse is not that God fulfilled the covenant he made with the patriarchs when he gave the land of Canaan to the children of Israel. Rather, what's written in the Torah is to give them, the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to give them the land of Canaan. Meaning the patriarchs themselves. From here it is derived that the resurrection of the dead is from the Torah, as in the future, the patriarchs will come to life and inherit the land. The Gemara records a mnemonic for those cited in the upcoming discussion. These are a series of letters. Tzadi, Dalet, Kuf, Gimel, Mem, Gimel, Shin, Mem, Kuf, Mem. So heretics asked Rabban Gamliel, from where is it derived that the Holy One, blessed be He, revives the dead? And Rabban Gamliel said to them that this matter can be proven from the Torah, from the prophets, and from the writings. Right? Tanakh is what we call the Jewish Bible. That's really an abbreviation. The T of Tanakh is the Torah. The Na is the Nun of Tanakh, is the Nevi'im, the prophets. And Tanakh, the Chaf, refers to the writings, Ketuvim. Okay, so in other words, in each of the three sections of the Jewish Bible, we see that there is a reference to the resurrection of the dead. Now he's going to show it. The proof from the Torah, as it is written, and the Lord said to Moses, behold, you shall lie with your fathers and arise. Right? And the heretics said to him, but perhaps the verse should be divided in a different manner, and it should be read like this. Behold, you will lie with your fathers, and this people will arise and stray after the foreign gods of the land. In other words, it says, Vayomer Hashem, said God, El Moshe, to Moshe, Hincha, behold, Shochev im Havosecha, vehayam, right? Behold, you will lie with your fathers, and then the word vakam comes next, and it actually it is then the words after that are vakam ha'am hazeh venava, right? So this word arise, is it saying, Moses, you shall lie with your fathers and arise, right? Or is it, you shall lie with your fathers and, comma, arise will this people, right? Because the verb in Hebrew often comes first. So it will be, these people will arise and follow the gods of others. They will stray and commit idolatry. But because the word arise is sandwiched between Moses, you will lie with your fathers, and these people will stray after other gods. The question is, does arise connect to Moses, you will lie with your fathers, and then you will arise? Or does it mean, Moses, when you're lying with your fathers, this people that you've led, in your absence, they will arise and stray after the gods of others? Answer, it can be read either way, and that's why Rebbe is bringing it down. Rabban Gamliel is bringing it down as a proof, that an allusion to resurrection of the dead. Right? I'm sorry, so just what I said before I skipped something, that Rabban Gamliel brought it down. He said that the Holy and Blessed be He, that we can derive this from the Torah, the prophets, and from the writings, but the people who asked him did not accept the proofs from him. Now the proofs. So from the Torah, it is this, about Vikam, arise can be either referring to Moses will lie with his fathers and then arise, or the people will arise and stray after the gods of the land. The proof from the prophets is as it is written, your dead shall live, my corpse shall rise. Your dead shall live, my corpse shall arise. Awake and sing, you that dwell in the dust, for your dew is as the dew of vegetation, and the land shall cast out the dead. That's Isaiah 26:19. So the heretics said to him, but perhaps the prophecy was fulfilled with the dead that Ezekiel revived. So no proof may be cited from that verse with regard to any future resurrection. Right? Ezekiel resurrected the dead, the valley of the dry bones. But maybe that was a one-time thing, and maybe that's what's being referred to here. There's no proof that there's going to be a future, Mashiach and resurrection of all the dead. So the proof from the writings, says Rabban Gamliel, as it is written, and your palate is like the best wine that glides down smoothly for my beloved, moving gently the lips of those that are asleep. The lips of those that sleep. That's from Song of Songs 7:10, indicating that the dead will ultimately rise and speak. But the heretics said to him, perhaps merely their lips will move. In accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan, as Rabbi Yochanan says in the name of Rabbi Shimon ben Yechotzadak, anyone in whose name a law is stated in this world, his lips move in the grave as if repeating the statement cited in his name. Right, here we're giving a law in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. So according to this, Rabbi Yochanan right now, wherever he is in his grave, his lips are moving because it's like he's being gladdened that we're reciting a law in his name. And so that's what is stated, moving gently the lips of those that sleep. But no proof may be cited from that verse as it is unrelated to resurrection. Now the exchange continued until Rabban Gamliel stated to them this verse, that your days may be multiplied and the days of your children upon the land that the Lord took an oath to your forefathers to give them. Deuteronomy 11:21. So the phrase to give you is not stated. Rather, it is stated to give them, to the patriarchs themselves, as in the future the patriarchs will come to life and inherit the land. And from here, resurrection of the dead is derived from the Torah. And there are those who say that it is from this following verse that he said to them his ultimate proof. But you who cleave to the Lord your God, every one of you is alive this day. Deuteronomy 4:4. Now, wasn't it obvious with regard to the children of Israel whom God was addressing that every one of you is alive this day? Rather, the meaning of the verse is, even on the day when everyone is dead, you will live. Just as today every one of you is alive, so too, in the world to come, every one of you will be alive. Deuteronomy 4:4. But you who cleave, ve'atem hadvekim b'Hashem Elohechem chayim kulchem hayom. We say that often in synagogue. Whenever we call people to the Torah, we begin, the Gabai's call begins with this, and the people answer. The Romans asked Rabbi Yehoshua ben Hananiah, from where is it derived that the Holy One, blessed be He, revives the dead? And from where is it derived that He knows what is destined to be, that God has omniscience into the future? So Rabbi Yehoshua ben Hananiah said to them, both of those matters are derived from this verse, as it is stated, Deuteronomy 31:16. And the Lord said to Moses, behold, you shall lie with your fathers and arise. This people will go astray. Same one we mentioned before. So this indicates that Moses will die and then arise from the dead, and that the Holy One, blessed be He, knows what the children of Israel are destined to do, that they are going to stray, and they did. Right? So when the Torah was written, God predicted that the children of Israel would stray, and we did. And that's why we lost the land of Israel for a very long time. The Romans asked, but perhaps the verse should be divided in a different manner and should be read, behold, you will lie with your fathers, and this people will arise and go astray after the foreign gods of the land. So Rabbi Yehoshua ben Hananiah said to them, well, you can say that if you lack faith. You can say that, but take at least a response to half of your question in the hands of that verse, that God knows what is destined to be. Right? The Torah was written long before the people strayed, and God said it would happen. So He knows the future. And the Gemara commented is also stated on a similar note by an Amora, sage of the Gemara, citing a Tana, a sage of the Mishna. As Rabbi Yochanan says in the name of Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, from where is it derived that the Holy One, blessed be He, revives the dead? And from where is it derived that He knows what is destined to be? It is derived from a verse, as it is stated, behold, you shall lie with your fathers and arise. It is taught in a baraisa that Rabbi Eliezer, the son of Rabbi Yosei, says, with this following matter, I refuted the books of the Samaritans, as they would say that there is no source for the resurrection of the dead from the Torah. I said to them, you falsified your Torah, and you accomplished nothing. As you say there is no source for the resurrection of the dead from the Torah, and the Torah states, Numbers 15:31, that soul shall be excised, his iniquity shall be upon him. What are we talking about? Charis, right? Many times now in this tractate Sanhedrin, we've talked about charis. What is charis? Death at the hands of the heavenly court. Certain sins are the penalty for them is death, but not at the hands of an earthly court, rather at the hands of the heavenly court. What does it mean exactly? We're not sure. There are different opinions, but something like your life will be shortened. What's the word I'm looking for? Like your life will be shorter than it would have been otherwise. Or worse things, losing children or never having children, or possibly just losing your share in the world to come. Death at the hands of the heavenly court. You don't want to go there, right? Now what they're going to say is, well, if the meaning is that your life is shortened, then how can it also say your iniquity will be upon you? If there's no life after death, well, you already had your life shortened. How will your iniquity rest upon you? That soul shall be excised, his iniquity shall be upon him. You interpret the phrase, that soul shall be excised, to mean that a sinner will be punished with death in this world. Well, if so, with regard to the phrase, his iniquity shall be upon him, for when is that destined to be? Is it not for the world to come, i.e. the world as it will exist after the resurrection of the dead? So apparently there is a world to come, and there is an allusion to it in the Torah. Rav Papa said to Abaye, and let Rabbi Eliezer, the son of Rabbi Yosei, say to the Samaritans that both of those matters can be derived from the phrase, shall be excised, like charis, because it's one of those times where a verb is doubled to create a special syntax of emphasis in the Torah. When it says shall be excised, it actually says hikares tikares. And sometimes they translate that as he shall surely be excised. He shall surely, or he shall be excised indeed. But the Hebrew is hikares tikares. Hikares indicates that the sinner is excised from this world. Tikares indicates that the sinner is excised from the world to come. Abaye answered, Rabbi Eliezer, the son of Rabbi Yosef, preferred not to cite proof from the compound verb because the Samaritans would say that the Torah just spoke in the language of people, and the compound verb is merely a stylistic flourish. I'm almost done. Questions or comments, please get them in now. The Gemara notes these derivations of Rabbi Eliezer and Rav Papa are parallel to a dispute between Tanaim with regard to Hikaris Tikaris as follows. Hikaris indicates that the sinner is excised in this world, and Tikaris indicates that the sinner is excised in the world to come. This is the statement of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Yishmael said to him, isn't it already stated in the previous verse, that person that blasphemes the Lord, that soul shall be excised. Venichresa, same verb, right? Different syntax. Numbers 15:30. And are there three worlds from which the sinner is excised? Rather, from the term venichresa, it is derived that the sinner is excised in this world. From hikaris, it is derived that the sinner is excised in the world to come. And from the compound verb hikaris tikaris, nothing is derived as the Torah spoke in the language of people. The Gemara asks, according to both Rabbi Yishmael and Rabbi Akiva, what do they do with, i.e., where do they derive from the phrase, his iniquity shall be upon him? And the Gemara answers, that phrase is necessary for that derivation which is taught in a baraisa. One might have thought that the sinner is excised even after he repented. Therefore, the verse states, his iniquity shall be upon him. So God is saying, I said that the sinner will be excised only when his iniquity remains upon him. So a person, even though he sinned all his life, but if he repents in time, might not be a good neighborhood, might not be prime quality real estate in the world to come, but he'll have some kind of a share in the world to come. But if he dies an unrepentant sinner, and the kind of sinner who has perhaps denied resurrection of the dead, and without repenting of it, he will lose his share in the world to come. That's what I've got for us today, and apparently no questions or comments. Okay, so with God's help, we're together again tomorrow night, Sunday, at the regular Sunday time, 6 p.m. Pacific. Good vach, Shavua Tov, have a wonderful week. Great to be starting it off with you, learning some beautiful Torah. All the best.